Okay, now I'd like to look at two other patterns for factoring binomials that you should look for when you're asked to factor. In the previous example, we looked at the difference of two squared. So the first term was something squared minus the second thing squared. There are two other patterns I'd like to show you here. These involve things that are cubed. This is the first thing. If you have something cubed plus something else cubed, it can be factored like this. You'll take one factor will be the first thing plus the second thing, and the second factor will be the first thing squared minus the first times the second plus the second thing squared. The other pattern you should look for is if you have two things that are cubed, the second one's subtracted from the first. So this is the difference of two cubes. And that factor is like this. One factor will be a minus b, and the other factor will be a squared plus ab plus b squared. In other words, the first thing squared plus the first times the second plus the second thing squared. Very similar. I'll give you these patterns to refer to when you're testing, but you have to be able to recognize when it does fit this pattern. Let's take two examples with this. Here's the first one. This is a relatively simple one. It's x cubed plus 1. And x cubed definitely is something cubed. It's x cubed. 1 can also be viewed as something cubed. This is the same as x cubed plus 1 cubed. Because if you cube 1, you still get 1. Of course, 1 could be something squared to the fourth power and so on, but it fits the pattern if we do this. So your a would be x, your b would be 1, and it would fit the top pattern. So let's go ahead and find the factors then. The first factor is going to be the first thing plus the second. First thing is x, second thing is 1. So the first factor is going to be x plus 1. The second factor will be the first thing squared. So that will be x squared, and then minus, the second term will be minus the first thing, which is x, times the second thing, 1. So minus x times 1, that'll just be minus x. And then the last term comes from squaring the second thing. The second thing is 1. We square 1, we get 1 squared, which is just 1. So those are the two factors for x cubed plus 1. If you multiply this out, you're going to get a lot of terms that many of them will cancel, and what you'll be left with is x cubed plus 1. I'll leave that for you to verify. The second example is this. And when you first look at it, you should try to do the difference of two squares. Here we have an x cubed, so it doesn't look like it's going to fit the x squared model. So I would start thinking cubed right away. We know we have an x cubed, but what about 125? There you should try some obvious things. How about it's not going to 1 or 2, 3, 4. Those aren't going to work. 5. 5 times 5 is 25. Times another 5 is 125. So this is actually 5 cubed. 5 cubed x cubed. So this is the same as 5x cubed. And I wrote it like that so it will match the pattern. What about 8? That's the other question. In order to use this pattern, they both have to be something cubed. And hopefully from working with these, you remember that 2 cubed is equal to 8. So your a would be 5x, your b would be 2. And this is the difference, so it should fit the second pattern here. So let's go ahead and write out the factors. The first factor is going to be a, which is in this case 5x, minus b, so it'll be minus, b is 2 here, minus 2. Okay, and then we'll find the other factor. So we have to square a. I'm going to write it like this first, and I'll come back and square it. So 5x squared, then it's going to be plus the first thing, which is 5x, times the second thing, which is 2. And I'll come back and simplify that as well. And then the last term will be the second thing, which is 2 in this case squared, so plus 2 squared. Okay, let's simplify that. The first factor is 5x minus 2. The second factor will be, when we square this, we'll get 5 squared times x squared. So in other words, 25x squared. Here, let's put our numbers together. We'll get plus 10x and then plus 4. And again, you should verify that by multiplying these out that you will get that when you simplify it. That's using the second pattern, the difference of two cubes.